Today I am going to explain an action-adventure film, named Rampage. The film features everyone's favorite hero, Dwayne Johnson. Well, before we get into the recap, let me give you a spoiler alert. With that out of the way, let us begin. In 1993, CRISPR, a breakthrough technology, was invented, and it was immediately utilized to create deadly experiments. A lab rat has been modified with CRISPR, and has wiped out the whole crew aboard a space station in the current time. Dr. Carrie Atkins was the only survivor, and she's reaching out to Energen's top brass, the ones who created the CRISPR mutagen, for assistance. Claire Wyden, the CEO of Energen, orders Carrie to return the mutagen samples. Carrie returns to get the samples but is pursued by the rat monster. She makes it to the escape pod, but is released just as the station goes up in flames, and the rat was still inside, but the pod is damaged and breaks open, depressurizes, and explodes, killing Carrie. The samples themselves take off and fly all across the country. Primatologist Davis Okoye leads co-workers Nelson, Connor, and Amy to an ape enclosure at an animal refuge in San Diego. They see Pavo, an ape, who was a little angry at Davis. But Davis gently calms him down. Just then, an albino gorilla named George comes charging in. Connor freaks out and irritates Pavo, who chases after Connor until George knocks him down. Pavo is terrified of George until Davis speaks to him. Later, Nelson approaches Davis and inquires as to why he is more attracted to animals than to people. Davis claims that the animals have a natural affinity with him. The mutagen samples begin to arrive that night. One lands in George's enclosure, another near a pack of wolves in the forest, and the third in a Florida river. While a crocodile eats the entire sample, a lone wolf is sprayed with the gas. And George is sprayed as well. The next morning, Davis is called in to see how George is doing. They find George in the grizzly bear enclosure with a dead bear inside. George has a scratch mark on his chest, indicating to Davis that he was the one who was assaulted first by the bear. When George gets up and approaches Davis, it turns out he is almost 9 feet tall. Sensing that there is something wrong, George is imprisoned. This angers him and he escapes his confinement, and runs amok on the sanctuary, terrorizing all of the visitors. Just as the cops come, Davis is able to corner him. But before he can talk George down, a chopper flies overhead and begins firing darts at George, until he passes out. Burke leads the military force into the forest in Wyoming, to recover the mutagen sample. The Wydens are contacted by Burke, who informs them that the container is empty. The squad discovers dead wolves splayed across the ground, as well as a giant paw print in the dirt as they advance farther into the forest. The modified wolf, nicknamed Ralph, then tracks them down and attacks them as he rushes through the forest. The squad fires at him, but it's in vain because Ralph picks them out one by one until only Burke is left. He orders the chopper to fire at Ralph, but the wolf leaps from the trees and crashes the chopper into the lake. Burke is caught by Ralph and gets eaten alive. Harvey Russell, a government agent, comes to the refuge to transport George aboard a plane, and keep him hidden from the public. Davis and Kate are also detained and questioned. Russell believes they have everything under control, while Davis believes putting George on the plane is suicide. After checking over Davis and Kate's records, Russell discloses that Kate was sacked from Energen for attempting to steal research from the labs, for which she served 13 months in prison. Davis realizes she was lying and that she can't cure George as a result of this. Claire activates a radio frequency that calls the mutant animals, after learning about what the wolf did. Ralph and Lizzie, the crocodile, make their way to Energen, which is located in Chicago. Despite being medicated, George manages to pick up on the frequency, and begins to wake up. He erupts in a fit of wrath, and destroys the cage, and proceeds to wreak havoc. George is about to kill Russell when Davis intervenes, and George just manages to knock him unconscious. The plane's turbine fails, and it begins to descend. As the plane crashes to the earth, Davis straps parachutes to himself, Kate, and Russell, and they eject themselves from the plane. When the three arrive, they discover that George has survived the crash, and is on his way to the city. Following what he's learned about Kate, Davis makes it apparent that he doesn't trust her. She reveals that her brother was diagnosed with cancer while she was working for Energen, and she hoped that CRISPR might cure him. Until she realized that Claire was using CRISPR to develop hazardous weapons. Davis then explains how he came upon George. Poachers had kidnapped his mother, and a terrified young George hid beneath the poacher's truck. Davis and his squad found him and killed the poachers in the same manner that they had shot at the gorillas. Meanwhile, Russell wakes up and thanks Davis for saving his life, so he offers to assist him and Kate. As they go into Chicago, Davis, Kate, and Russell meet with a military team that is keeping an eye on George and Ralph. They see that the animals have been summoned to the city. and that they must find a way to keep them contained. So, Russell assists Davis and Kate in stealing a chopper and entering the city, as they might be the only ones who can subdue the madness. When George, Ralph, and Lizzie arrive in town, the city is engulfed in chaos as the monsters go against each other. By the time David and Kate arrive, most of the city is in ruins. The two then rush to Energon in search of an antidote, because they know they won't be able to stop them on their own. They manage to locate the antidote lab, but the Widens get to them first, and Brett kidnaps them. Claire informs the two that the antidote will only reduce the animals' heightened aggressions, not return them to normal size. Before taking Kate with her, she takes the revolver and shoots Davis in the abdomen. The Widens try to board their own chopper to flee with their chemicals and Kate, but the monsters begin climbing the tower. George reaches the top and smashes the chopper, prompting Brett to flee. It looks like Kate's time has come, but an injured Davis arrives on the scene. He promptly diverts George's attention long enough for Kate to retrieve a bottle of antidote and place it in Claire's bag. With the antidote secure, Kate hits Claire and shoves her into George's path, causing him to seize her and eat her, as well as the antidote. Meanwhile, Brett is on his way out the door when he runs into Russell, who had just entered the building. Russell tells him that if he wants to be free, then he should hand over the laptop containing his research. Brett gladly accepts and dashes out the door, only to get killed by a stray piece of falling debris. As Davis and Kate wait for the cure to take effect, Ralph and Lizzie also reach the top. Davis and Kate board the Widens' chopper in order to protect themselves from the debris and destruction. But before the chopper can take off, the skyscraper collapses and plummets down. However, Davis and Kate manage to survive, and George has risen from the ashes and is back to his old self. Ralph and Lizzie, on the other hand, are still causing havoc, so Davis and George decide it's time to put a stop to it. The military plans to take lethal action to end all the commotion, but this would mean that George would be caught in the crossfire, so Kate goes to Russell to somehow delay the impending attack. Meanwhile, George is pitted against Ralph and Lizzie. He throws Ralph around, but the wolf can fly and shoot quills, and Lizzie's skin is virtually indestructible. So, to help George, Davis manages to deceive Ralph into gliding toward him, only for him to move, causing Ralph to fly into Lizzie's path. Ralph gets grabbed by the throat, bites off his head, and swallows it. George tries to punch Lizzie, but she is too strong for him, and she throws him into a pole, impaling him. Seeing George in trouble, Davis once again leaps into action, throws a grenade belt at Lizzie's neck, and tries to take her down with the chopper's cannon, but it barely scrapes her. Lizzie pursues Davis and comes close, until George leaps into the air with the pole, slams it into Lizzie's eye, and runs it through her brain, killing her. The military colonel calls a halt to the strike, after witnessing everything that has occurred. George appears to be weakened by his wound, and appears to die. Everyone looks heartbroken, but suddenly George appears to move. It turns out he was only teasing George. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief, and the heroes begin to leave the city, unsure of George, that will he make his new home. So this is for today. I will see you in the next one. Till then, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell icon, to remain updated about all our future videos. See you in the next one.